This episode is about the Black P Stones, BPS, and the Rolling 20 Bloods versus 18th Street, the Rolling 30 Crips, and the Rolling 40 Crips. BPS and Rolling 20s have been allies for many decades, but being allies they have some of the same rivals. Some include the West Boulevard Crips, Schoolyard Crips, Rolling 60s, Rolling 30s, and Rolling 40s, and Hispanic gang 18th Street. And the beef with the last three robbers are who will be discussed. The Black P Stones have two different subsets, the Biddy and the Jungles. BPS started in the late 60s when T. Rogers brought the BPS identity from Chicago. They were established by 1969, and they joined the Blood Alliance in the 1970s. Jungles operate out the Baldwin Village complex in the Crenshaw district, behind the Crenshaw Mall, which you may know for seeing in Denzel's movie Training West Adams Mid-City district, and have different cliques in their set. Their allies, the Rolling 20 Bloods, located in the West Adams district, was founded in the 70s, becoming one of the largest blood gangs in Los Angeles. The Rolling 20 Bloods have nearby allies like the Fruitown Brims and the Biddy Stones, but they're in close proximity to their arch nemesis, the Rolling 30s. They're also north of their Schoolyard Crips, another rival hood. Now let's talk about their rivals, the Rolling 30 Crips. The Rolling 30s are one of the largest Crip gangs in Los Angeles, consisting of many cliques. I see many people say they are a part of the neighborhood card, but they are not. They're only in the Rolling O Alliance and are just allies of the neighborhood Crips. The Rolling 30s have many rivals. They beef with a lot of nearby bloods like BPS, Rolling 20s, and all of the Brim sets, especially the Fruitown Brims. They also beef with all the Hoover sets and gangs in the gangster card. The last Crip set I'm going to mention is the Rolling 40s. They're under the Rolling O Alliance in the neighborhood card. They consist of different cliques within the 40s. Some of the gangs that 40s beef with are the 5-1 Trouble Gangster Crips, BPS, Rolling 20 Bloods, and all of the Brim sets. Also all of the Hoover sets as well, especially the 5 Deuce Hoovers. They used to beef heavy with the 4 Trey Hoovers, but now they have their turf, which is the dark side clique of the Rolling 40s. Despite being in the Rolling O Alliance, they have had past beefs with the Rolling 30s. After a Rolling 40 member was held responsible for killing the Rolling 30, they have also had past beefs with the Rolling 60 Crips. The last gang that will be discussed will be the 18th Street set of the Serranos. In the 1970s and 1980s, it was an influx of Mexican immigrants that came to California. More than half of them made their way to Southern California. In the 1970s, the Latino population was 17% in LA. Now the LA population is around 40% of Latino. With the increase of Latinos in LA, the population of African Americans had a major decrease. In the 1970s, the black community was at 18% in Los Angeles, and current times is at 8%. Many black families left LA County at a rapid pace. In the 1980s, around 100,000 black families left LA to cities like Riverside, San Bernardino, San Diego, and many cities in Northern California like Sacramento, San Jose, and Oakland. The growing population of Latinos, many moved into areas controlled by African Americans. In some areas, there wasn't any problems with Latinos and African Americans, with many being cordial and still are to this day. But many other areas by the 1990s had tension or already full-fledged beef. 18th Street has many different cliques and are located in many different areas. They were once a part of Clanton 14, but many fallouts caused them to become their own set, and breaking away probably was the best thing they could have did. They became bigger than anyone could have imagined, with sets all over America now, even Central America. But the 18th Street set I'm going to talk about in this segment is Westside 18th Street. 18th Street was one of the early Latino gangs to beef with African Americans. It is said to believe that they tried to set up shop in the BPS territory in the 1990s, which caused a major beef which has been going on for over 20 years strong. The same with their beef with the Rolling 20 Bloods. An 18th Street member supposedly killed the Rolling 20 Blood, and bloodshed between the gangs has been going on for decades. They also have fallouts with Crip gangs like the Gear Gang, which they operate on the same street, Smiley Drive, which has caused many shootings between them. Now I'm going to go into the rap scene and a few disses between rappers from BPS, Rolling 30 Crip, and Rolling 40 Crips. First, I'm going to get into an up-and-coming rap group, Baby Stone Gorillas. They're affiliated with BPS.
The news, but he keep on running. Yeah, I'm CK. Last trip to the ops. We ain't gonna say his name. The real yellow tape of funky nigga acts man.
In this song, they diss many Crip sets, especially the Schoolyards, Rolling 60 Crips, and Rolling 40 Crips. The next song I'm gonna get into is Really From the Village Remix, a song from about 3 years ago that featured many artists from BPS. The verse that stands out the most is a female rapper from BPS, as she throws shots at 18th Street.
You can catch a single. I'm from the nickel, serving and dodging, playing pickle. Fuck around a year, have a yak attack on your back and breaking that. It's 2018, it's no respect.
Now going into the Rolling 30s. Rapper King 2 has been dissing rivals for years in his music. I'm gonna show you 3 songs that have contained disses or references to his op. Rolling 30 rapper dissed Fruitown Brims, Another Blood Rival, and Black P Stones. King 2's song Troublesome, he didn't actually diss with words, but Steppin' on Twinkies is a shot at the rival Rolling 20 Bloods. The last song I'm gonna mention is called All Gas. He once again disrespected the 20 Bloods.
Back shit, beam on the Glock 23. Let's let the tag, bitch. I'm turning Wayne Grace to the 100 and knock you off a jet ski. Johnny told a Vector, shout out Bob, but I ain't talking technique. Pull up to the 20, throw like 20 out the window. These bitches ain't loyal, so I'm paying them like it.
Going into Rolling 40 rapper Holly Rock. Holly Rock takes shots at BPS on his song 40 Bars.
Blinked up, militant, big slime with a Drake down, August out of my element. Brick searching, but if you need a bowl, I'm melanin.
The Rolling 40 rapper mentioned Sliding Down on August. That's a notorious BPS block. Now the next rappers I'm gonna get into is a combination of rappers from the Rolling 40s. They collaborated on a song called Gang Shit.
Stains, maggots, and faggots. I don't care if I lost, still let them bitch niggas have. I'm a squabbling Lil Johns. Fuck it, call me Madden. Beating Snoop's girlies up. Maggots and faggots. Fuck tramps too. Rolling 40s. Bitch, you better act like you know me. On hood. Hey, BZ, kill this.
On hood, look. Gang shit, let me show you how to bang, bitch. Pull up on August with a 30, leave a stain tip. How they talking about beef, but they tapping out my shooter here. Max you out, the homies there pack you out.
So they take shots at the Hoovers, BPS, Crenshaw Mafia, Another Blood Set, A-Tray Gangsta Crips, and the Gangsta Crip card. My first case will be about Giovanni Crowder, a member of the Rolling 20 Bloods. Crowder lived in BPS territory. He was sitting outside his apartment with his girlfriend when James Williams drove up and parked. Soon his acquaintance, Dina Williams, came out to talk to James. Crowder told his girlfriend to go talk to Williams as well. He went back into his apartment and she approached the car. Williams began flirting with her and offering her a ride. She told him that Crowder was her boyfriend. Crowder returned and stood by his girlfriend. Dina explained to Crowder that Williams was there just to see her. Crowder leaned into the car and asked Williams where was he from. Williams hesitated and looked frightened before he admitted he was from Rolling 40 Crip. Crowder responded, "I'm from 20 Bloods," and pulled out a gun and shot numerous times at Williams before running away. Crowder's girlfriend later found the gun in an alley and tossed it into a bush. Williams would die at the scene. Crowder's girlfriend was detained that same night and was booked for accessory to murder, but for exchange of her testimony with her only being a minor, she only received 15 months in juvenile hall. But Giovanni Crowder will be charged with first-degree murder and receive 50 years to life. Ricky Hamilton, a member of BPS, will be discussed next. Ricky Hamilton was dating Rondalyn Johnson in 2011. Flores, the victim in this case, was a Rolling 30 member. He was a friend of Johnson. Flores lived in BPS territory in February of 2011. Hamilton and another man would come to Flores during an accident once he from 30s. Later on, a security guard would come to intervene, and both Hamilton and the man left. A few days later after that incident, Flores seen Hamilton on the street and challenged him to a fight. Hamilton would run away and run from the fight. Flores would tell Hamilton's girlfriend, Rondalyn Johnson, what happened. A few weeks later, Flores and Rondalyn spent the night together. Rondalyn would later open Flores' sliding door when Flores wasn't looking, and Hamilton and 2 other masked men entered the apartment. Hamilton held a gun, and the man beat Flores and pistol whipped him. Flores ran and Hamilton fired 5 shots, hitting him in the hip. Hamilton would take Flores' phone and laptop. Flores would later tell the police about the incident before and the incident with Rondalyn that night. Rondalyn text messages would show that she helped plan the robbery with Hamilton. Flores agreed to testify and identify Hamilton at trial. Ricky Hamilton was charged with attempted murder, robbery, discharging a firearm, causing great bodily injury, and he received 40 years to life. Rondalyn Johnson, who was a minor at the time, only received 6 months on ankle monitor. Next case is about Peter Cole, another member of BPS. On January 9, 2017, Peter Cole and 2 other BPS members were riding around in a Toyota, Cole being the back passenger that night. Around 10:25, they drove by the victim, a member of the Rolling 40 Crips named DH, who was sitting outside a liquor store on Western and Vernon, along with another 40 member. They threw up signs at the BPS members. The Toyota stopped in the middle of Vernon, and Cole hopped out with a gun and walked toward DH. When DH seen him approach, he ran. DH would be shot in the right side of his head and above his right hip. Police were sitting in a parked unmarked car on the side of the street when they heard 5 shots. They reached Vernon and seen a Toyota was the only car on the street and went into pursuit. When the pursuit ended, they reached BPS territory. The officers saw Cole jump out and chase him till he was apprehended. Cole would admit to shooting DH and said he had an altercation with him once in jail. He admitted to being high that night off coke and wasn't thinking straight. When the other BPS members drove through the 40 territory, he also admitted that he seen the unmarked car and he thought the police were gone by the time of the shooting. Peter Cole was found guilty of attempted murder and discharging a handgun with a great bodily injury. He received 25 years to life. The last case between these 4 gangs was about 4 members of the Rolling 30 Crips. In 2010, Charles Allen and 3 other 30 members went to a Crip party. Around 3 a.m., a BPS member came to the party and shot a 30 member. Plotting revenge, Charles Allen and 3 other 30 members got into an SUV and drove through BPS territory looking for people to shoot. Around 4:30 a.m., they seen the victims, Jackson and Owens, walking. Jackson was wearing a red Cardinals hat, which is known to be worn by BPS members. The SUV pulled up and asked them where they was from before disappearing in the alley. Jackson and Owens continued walking. As they walked, 330 members popped out of nowhere asking them where they were from. Jackson said he didn't bang, and the 330 members turned around to talk amongst themselves. Owens testified on the stand that before they turned around, one of the 30 members said, "Okay, let's do it." Then they began firing. Jackson would be shot in the head, which he would die from. Owens ran, and the 330 members shot at him, but he only would be skinned in the head, and he would survive. Allen, the driver, will be placed at the scene because he was on ankle monitor. Allen will be later arrested. He called a member from the 30s after the shooting while locked up and ordered a hit on another 30 member who helped commit the crime. Allen will be later called the ringleader in his crime and the one calling all the shots, even from his jail cell. Allen will be charged with premeditated murder of Jackson and attempted premeditated murder of Owens and was sentenced to 40 years to life. Now I'm going to get into 3 cases involving BPS, Rolling 20 Bloods, and a robbery with the 18th Street Gang. All of these cases were high profile because all of the victims were not gang members. They were senseless crimes that shocked the communities. Larry Lattimore and Johnathan Banks, members of BPS, will be detailed first. September 24, 2006, Cesar Avila arrived at his home around 2:45 p.m. with his 2 daughters, a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. Both of his daughters were in the back seat. As Cesar stepped out his car, a silver car stopped right beside him. The front right passenger ran the road down and yelled, "Fuck 18," and Black P. Stone yelled right after. The passenger put out a gun and fired a shot at Cesar. The bullet hit Cesar in the chest. Cesar began to run as the shooter exited the vehicle and fired more shots, hitting Cesar in the hand. Cesar collapsed in the courtyard of the apartments. At trial, Cesar identified Banks as the shooter and Larry Moore as the driver. A witness at the scene seen Banks run back to Cesar's car and open the right door in the back seat and fire a 3rd shot, and seen the passenger jump back in the silver vehicle and his driver sped off. The witness called 911 and seen a small child lying on the ground beside Cesar's car. Cesar's 3-year-old daughter would die to a single gunshot to the chest. R.I.P. to her. September 29, 2006, a member of the Black P. Stones will be arrested on a Grand Theft Auto charge. He is reluctant at first to speak, but ended up telling the officers the shooter's names and that Banks called him and said that he shot at 18th Street and his child, but the shooting the child was a mistake. On the stand, the BPS informant retracted his statement, saying he just said they were involved to get out of jail, and he denied any knowledge of knowing anything. Even with a retraction from the BPS informant, with many witnesses and Cesar testifying on a high-profile case, Johnathan Banks received 75 years to life, plus a consecutive life term, plus 25 years to life for attempted murder on Cesar. Ron Larry Moore, the driver, was convicted of second-degree murder of the child and attempted premeditated murder on Cesar, and he received 72 years to life, plus 40 years to life. May 8, 2009, Rosa Gallegos was fatally shot when she was sitting in a parked car while talking to her boyfriend Luis and neighbor Kenneth Thomas. After Luis was entering the car on the passenger side, a black Malibu stopped in the street. Kenneth and Luis testified they seen a car with 3 men and the man in the back seat shooting. Luis would duck but would be shot in the arm. Thomas fell to the ground and would have no injuries. When the shooting stopped, Rosa was shot in the chest and the side. They were in 18th Street territory. Police believe that was a possible motive. Since BPS and 18th Street are mortal enemies, they began to search the BPS area. Police will spot the black Malibu and follow it to the gas station, where the occupants will be detained. Joel Childers will have 2 phones took, and his fingerprints and Eric Allen's both will be matched on the Malibu. Childers' home will be searched, and bullets will be found in his home, the same bullets that will match the ones at the shooting. About a week later, police searched Allen's home where they found many references to BPS, like hoodies, hats, and letters. After examination of his cell phone, it would be discovered that Childers and Allen would have several contacts, and the last comment would be an hour before the shooting. Lewis will be brought to pick out of a lineup. He identified Allen as the back passenger and the shooter, and identified Childers as the driver of the Malibu, and he testified in court. During the trial, Allen refused to come to court and refused to testify. Childers would be called to testify, and he pleaded the fifth. The judge ordered Childers to answer his questions. His response was, "You already ordered me to 122 years to life," and he was held contempt of court. Joel Childers and Eric Allen will both be convicted of first-degree murder, 2 counts of premeditated murder, and they both received life sentences. Last case will be about Pedro Espinoza from 18th Street. This was a high-profile case in 2008 with the murder of Jamiel Shaw, a star high school running back expected to receive plenty of college offers. In the evening of March 2nd, 2008, 17-year-old Jamiel Shaw was walking from the bus stop, 3 blocks away from his home. He was on the phone with his dad before the altercation started. About 8:40 p.m., 2 Hispanic men jumped out of a white car and asked Shaw what gang was he in. When he didn't respond fast enough, they shot him. They assumed he was a Rolling 20 Blood, a rival gang, because Shaw had on red at the time. Shaw's father arrived on the scene and stayed with his son until an ambulance came. Shaw would be pronounced dead by 9:55 p.m. Shaw was shot in the stomach, causing him to fall to the ground. While on the ground, he put his hands over his head. He was shot through his hands, and the bullet would travel to his face. Pedro would be later found at a park. Police was not aware of the shooting and told him to leave because the park was closed. The police took the license plate number down, and Pedro would be later arrested. This case would cause more racial tension because Pedro was in the U.S. illegally. He was previously arrested in November of 2007 for a gun charge and an assault on an officer, and instead of being deported, he was released 4 months early, and the day after his release, he would commit the murder. This would cause an uproar with the making of a campaign called Jamiel's Law, aimed at rounding up gang members who are in the U.S. illegally. It failed to get enough signatures on the ballot, though. The Shaw family sued the Los Angeles County Sheriff Department stating wrongful death, also for the releasing of Pedro. But Los Angeles is a city that welcomes undocumented immigrants. Police don't inquire about a person's immigration status. For over 40 years, it's been a policy for police not to ask. After 4 years, in 2012, Pedro will be charged with first-degree murder and sentenced to death. He is currently on death row. Jamiel Shaw's father will endorse Trump's campaign in 2016 to get rid of illegal immigrants, and he will be a strong voice over the years voicing his opinions on the matter.
Recognize the family of Jamiel Shaw.
And Shaw was a junior at Los Angeles High School. He was killed in front of his home back in March of 2008.
Jamiel's 17-year-old son was viciously murdered by an illegal immigrant gang member who had just been released from prison. Jamiel Shaw Jr. was an incredible young man with unlimited potential who was getting ready to go to college where he would have excelled as a great college quarterback. But he never got the chance. His father, who is in the audience tonight, has become a very good friend of mine. Jamiel, thank you. Thank you.
This one concludes this segment. RIP to all those who lost their lives in these senseless crimes. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.